I think when you're able to impact culture or use technology in ways that unlock different thinking or change something from being maybe narrow-minded to being more inclusive and bring in broader groups, that's when things get really rewarding. So as opposed to what stands out as the shiniest object, I always kind of chase where can we be most impactful and really drive change.
Welcome back to Created for Creatives, the podcast where creatives talk about, creative. I'm Christopher Smith, your host for this episode, where we get tactile and discuss package design with Prerna Mehra, the head of design and content director at MullenLowe MENA in Dubai, and creative and business to business with Amy Carvahal, the chief creative officer from Code and Theory, New York. So we like to start these episodes by asking our guests about their backstories. Now, for some people, that story starts at university. For others, like Amy, it started in childhood.
As a kid, I was always experimenting, always doing things creative, finding rocks, finding little twigs and things and creating things out of that and painting on them and making little figures and selling them to the neighbors. so I was always kind of like creative and business minded, but also trying to find things that I could make into something else. And I think that is really telltale about where the industry is headed, being very tech driven. The medium that we're able to play in is so different. So it's really, I think, the only industry where you can bring all of that together into one. It's not just music. It's not just entertainment. It's all forms of creativity. So that is how I got started and want to continue on my journey, tapping in places that are unusual to create something new.
Prerna, how about you?
I am long way from home. It's about 16 hours plus, about 4 hours of a flight, so 20 hours away from home. But it's been a great journey so far. I started in advertising long time ago, but that's not what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to be a fashion designer. I have actually designed clothes for Miss World. Along with that, I've done advertising. I have designed interiors. I have, of course, done digital. I have done packaging. I've done art direction. I've done campaigns. I've done everything under the sun. This is one industry I totally love. Whenever I talk to anybody, they say, oh my God, why are you so passionate about it? I was like, what's there not to be passionate about? I mean, you've got design in every possible thing. And the more that you talk about it, the more that you sort of absorb it, it just keeps getting better and more, interesting. So what I like about design is the fact that everything is just so beautifully thought. And you, as a designer, can just make it better. Even with the best design products, there's always a scope to make it better. And that's why I'm in this industry.
What a great, inspiring answer. I want to go design something right now. That was a fantastic answer. And of course, the listeners can't see, you're wearing a fabulous hat, a sparkly hat. You're still a style influencer. What's a campaign that you've worked on that you're proud of or that was a turning point in your career, something that you're just really excited that you did or were involved in?
I've always said that you're as good as your last piece of work. While I would have a lot of interesting pieces in my portfolio right now, but I'm going to talk about the last piece that I've done, which I'm not just proud of from the perspective of what it's doing to the world. I'm not even going to say region or anything, what it's doing to the world, but also from the fact that it is just such a simple idea, need of the hour. So the campaign Fixing the Bias, it is instrumental in making the first rule of law for AI. So, and how we're doing it is hacking into AI. So we're using AI in order to fix AI itself. The problem with AI is the fact that it is not gender inclusive. It's also because of the kind of data sets that are there. It learns from the past and it invariably gives you outputs which are very, very gender biased. And I don't know, I'm sure the listeners would know the likes of AI generating platforms. I'm not going to name them here. But if you do put in any of the professions there, it's going to generate images that are gender biased. You're going to see more of men. So what we've done is, using those platforms itself, we've created a vast image portfolio of women in different professions. And now it's not just creating those images. What we did was we placed all of this data that we created of women in different professions into places where they're getting their information from, so into their data sets.
Wow, you hacked AI.
Yes.
As a human being who is about to be, my job will be replaced by AI any minute now. Thank you. Thank you so much for fighting back for us, for all of us carbon-based beings. That's an exciting project.
So in fact, this is my second time in the US. The first time I was actually knocking the doors of one of the big AI platforms, and that office was a ghost office. Yes, went unannounced. All we're saying is just take our images, and we're giving it for free. We're not charging any money. Just take our images and put it in your data sets. You're going to be a lot more inclusive.
So you went to the office and there were no humans there? I mean, that's utterly terrifying, but...
It almost so. The only person that I could interact with was somebody from the security.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing creepy about that.
Nothing creepy about that. Yeah.
Right. Well, Amy, follow that. What's your project that you're most excited to have worked on or are working on?
Well, it's interesting. Obviously, we're all using AI. So to go maybe start now and go back a little bit, we're training AI to help us create personas and languages and brand voices and understand, using it not to replace creativity, but to use it to drive what's norm and where we can go that's very different. So training it and training models to generate kind of the common, because I think of it as like crap in, crap out. Whatever you put into this generator, if you put crap information in, you get crap out. So training it to be really smart and understanding what we can do differently to identify where those unique opportunities are. So there's a ton of things that we're doing for campaign generation, strategy, persona development that I think gets really interesting because it unlocks and we're able to have our wild brains think in different places versus trying to focus on, what we've been trained to do. It's a whole new way of thinking and training, which I think unlocks a ton of creativity in different ways. What's most interesting is about how we're thinking about using technology in these new ways. Recently before, a non-AI piece of work was rebranding an NFL team. I don't ever like to talk about their old name. I think the new, we went through 2 waves. It was a wild ride. We had to rebrand them to be the Washington football team and then into the Commanders. So we had to use a ton of data to bring the fans along and know what we had to keep and not abandon and what was really true to them. And it's wild to think about our work being tattooed on somebody because we saw pictures. It's like wild when you start to see your designs and your work being permanently inked on someone's skin. So that was something that I'm really proud of because we were able to usher that brand into something that was very inclusive and stand for team and unity. And so everything that we did there was really meaningful. And I think the most exciting pieces of work are the ones where you impact culture in positive ways. And, going even further back, the most memorable pieces are when you're able to change an entire category or culture. So this is a bit of an old piece, but something that I'm really proud of is when we were able to change femcare and have it think this is like first time ever. Used to walk the aisles and see white medicinal packaging everywhere, and you couldn't talk about having your period, and there was shame and stigma that surrounded it. And we did the first Break the Cycle campaign that then, of course, everything all, kind of opened the doors to breaking down the walls of taboo and shame. So I think when you're able to impact culture or use technology in ways that unlock different thinking or change something from being maybe narrow-minded to being more inclusive and bring in broader groups, that's when things get really rewarding. So as opposed to what stands out as the, shiniest object, I always kind of chase where can we be most impactful and really drive change. So when those moments have happened, I think that's when I'm most proud.
Wow. And that's also in our industry, sometimes what we do is just kind of frivolous and whatever, but you guys are actually trying to change things for the better. And with the AI issue, it sounds like you're both kind of coming at it, the same problem from 2 different angles. That's pretty fascinating.
You kind of have to. If we were coming at it in the same ways, then it probably wouldn't be as exciting.
And at the same time, I think the fact that, what is AI? It's technology, right, at the end of the day. So we should be using technology for the sake of an idea or a cause rather than using technology for the sake of technology. So what I just heard from you, oh my God, that's so great. You're using technology to come out with strategies and a lot of research and all of that. And that's fantastic. I mean, that's what you should be using technology for. And not take the shortcut of letting technology do the work for you.
Prerna, tell me about the design and package design jury. That is the jury you are on. And last year I heard that the majority of the items you're looking at are now online. You don't have any actual physical things. Tell me about that jury and how it's going.
So in fact, we do have some items here, not as much as we used to in early days, I think before COVID. And honestly, if you are entering packaging, please do send stuff because the whole perspective changes when you touch and feel, when you see what's the paper, you see how the printing has been done, you see the finishing. It makes a lot of difference. Having said that, I mean, the work is great this year and the work's always been great. I mean, the stuff that comes always like funnels out of LIA is fantastic. It is the creme de la creme. You know these guys and these pieces are going to be winning all over. So definitely the jury is interesting, and the fact that the pieces are some of the best pieces in the industry, it's quite interesting. Let's think a little. Let's ask ourselves, what is the future of packaging? It is technically no packaging. So I think bringing in a bit of innovation within the packaging and how do you actually make sure that there is no packaging, and achieving that, there is actually one piece, and I'd like to talk about it, which is called the life extending stickers. Oh my God, that is so simple. That's what we were looking for. Design should enhance the idea, right? And that's what that piece does. It's a very sustainable thing. It's stickers. It's using a medium that is already there. It also increases the life cycle of the fruits and vegetables that you're buying in a very interesting and innovative way. So it's got the color coding in it, and it tells you according to the color what's going to be the use of it. So for example, if it's a banana, right? If it's green, it can be fried and eaten. If it is pale yellow, then it could be, say, eaten as chips. Or if it is yellow, then you can make, a cake. And that's what it is. I think I've always felt that design should bring a smile in your, mind. And that's what this piece does for me. It's simple, minimalistic, and almost no packaging. That's the beauty of it.
So your favorite item in the packaging design jury is the no packaging.
Yeah.
I love it. That's great. Submitting samples, I would think part of the utility of packaging is opening it and, handling it and manipulating it. And if you can't do that, it's just online, I could see why that would probably be a little frustrating.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go back a little in time. And one of the first pieces that I ever did in my career was actually packaging. I was a trainee at that point, and my boss saw a lot of stuff that I did. And he's like, you know what, you need to think about packaging, not from just the design perspective, but how anybody is interacting with it. And that stayed with me. The fact that, packaging is not just about a beautiful sort of a design on it, but how you open it, how you interact with it. Even if it's a chocolate, if it's got a different way of opening, anybody who's using it is going to notice for sure. So the fact that packaging is something that we all are interacting with on a daily basis, hourly, minutely basis, like even a bottle of water that we actually drink from is packaging. So if our packaging is not interesting, it doesn't have a touch and feel to it, if it doesn't evoke emotion in you, then I think it's not great packaging, right? And I think anything and everything from that perspective. And definitely innovation, sustainability is a very big part. And sustainability is not just about getting a cardboards and say that it's a sustainable packaging. It's still a waste, right? So I'm going to go back to where I started. The best packaging is no packaging. So find a way to not have packaging, but in the most interesting way.
Are you seeing packaging as being less designed almost for what it's used for, but designed for what happens after it's used? That it's pretty utilitarian. What we're really designing is, how does this go away? How does this decompose? How does this get recycled? That's interesting. I kind of thought of it that way.
So in fact, there's another piece that I'd like to talk about. It was there last year and it won at LIA, which is called the Killer Pack. So the whole purpose of that pack is not the usage of the pack as you actually take the product out, but the disposal of it. The fact that pack only comes alive when you dispose it, and it actually kills the mosquitoes because it's got some elements in it which sort of actively kills mosquitoes, and it's actually for a mosquito coil, but that's what it is. So you need to think about packaging not just from the consumption but even post consumption.
As a resident of Texas, where the mosquitoes are roughly the size of bald eagles, I would very much be interested in this packaging that helps kill mosquitoes.
I think what's really interesting is a lot of what you're describing. Packaging isn't just the physical thing that holds, but it's an entire experience. I think a lot of people think of it as, unboxing or the device that holds something else versus everything from the first glance to the first touch, or even a package that isn't even a physical in real life, but a digital or technical, using technology to package something else. I mean, there's so many different ways you could define packaging, but packaging being used as an experience from the first all the way through to something like that, where it's then even useful beyond, whether you can reuse it or it's for another purpose. I mean, there's so many purpose-filled things you can put in those experiences of packaging. It can get really fascinating, but people don't think of it as this full experience. It's almost a one touch. And I think that's where you're hitting on the ones that are more exciting aren't just that one touch, but
absolutely
something else.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, we're going to stay with you. You are on the creativity in business to business. It's a new jury.
It is. I mean, business to business is such an exciting place. I think it gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
People always think that it's going to be boring. And I don't understand that. There's so many places that we can go. It's just the audience you're talking to. It's fascinating that it's a new category. I'm honored to be part of it this year, that it was added. And I'm so glad that it is. We started today, and what we're seeing already is how creatives and agencies and groups are defining what their entries are. So within the B2B categories, we're seeing everything from technology, experiences. It's not just film and communications, but also how they're bringing to life maybe something that is ingredients within their product that they might want other businesses, marketers to know, or how they're getting the attention of, a marketer to a marketer. I mean, when you think about it, sometimes in B2B, your critics can be the harshest ones because you're talking to us, you're talking to brand builders, creatives, marketers. And so the entries are getting really exciting, are the ones where they're being really innovative in how they're bringing to life their story. It's not just a communications, but how can we get our products or our brand's mission into an experience or a life or a group of people, and what stunt or experience can we do to have people understand what we stand for and what our products stand for. So the entries are wild, so many different forms, and I think that that's been really exciting to kind of see what people are identifying and defining as business to business, because it's such a broad place to play. The bad rap where people think it's really boring. It's been a really fun day so far, seeing how not just the entries, but how people are thinking about what's B2B.
That's great. I always thought it was bizarre that people hear B2B and think it's not creative, it's too straightforward, it's very, meat and potatoes or whatever. I've never agreed with that, because business people are people. And they're going to react to the same thing in business advertising that they react to in consumer advertising, engaging, surprising. I love to hear that you're rewarding that and that you're seeing it.
We're humans. Whether you're talking to a consumer or a person in business, you're talking to humans. So it shouldn't be any different. I personally think it can be something that's really exciting. How do you serve up what you have to offer in a different way? Or how do you help, as an agency and a creative, how do you help a brand communicate what they have to offer and make other marketers, brand builders, purchasers, the target that you're talking to, how do you get this other business understand what you have to offer? It's not just a sales pitch like when you think about consumer. It almost opens your mind to different ways that you can play. One thing that we did, we were working with Amazon, and I don't think anyone thinks of Amazon as a B2B play. They think of it as e-commerce solely. But if you think of Amazon and the properties that they have with Twitch and IMD TV and Prime, and there's Audible, and it's in everybody's lives. It's not just e-commerce. It's all these different entertainment consumptions that are within this platform. So let's market that and allow marketers and brands to understand what Amazon Ads would have to offer as a platform. It's not just e-commerce. It can be a non-endemic category, automotive, sales, services. We did something where we have ads that work as hard as you do because it's advertising that gets inserted into people's lives. And I think if you start to understand and think about, in that kind of journey, it's a different way of thinking, and I think quite an exciting way of thinking.
Obviously, the way we're doing business is changes all the time. So therefore, the way we're communicating to businesses is changing. Do you see like the cart before the horse? Do you see like that, the communication is sort of changing how these businesses are thinking and doing business, or is it the other way around? Are they trying to find new ways to do business and the marketing's trying to sort of keep up?
Well, selfishly, I'd like to say that we are changing the way business is thinking.
I totally set you up for that, by the way.
That was a softball.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I think we are able to allow businesses and brands to see untapped potential in ways that maybe they're not maybe noticing themselves. They have different jobs to do. So in packaging and in products, when you're in that R&D development phase and you're able to influence actual products that will be made or new SKUs or brands, consumer packaged goods, and you get to see from that first concept all the way through, and you get to talk about things we're noticing, trends, technology, AI, different uses, and we're able to bridge and bring consumer knowledge through to the business side of things. I think we're able to tap into driving their revenue, their growth in different ways. So it's all about growth, our growth and their growth. It would be nice to be able to take credit, but
you can take credit. Take credit on the Leah podcast. Go ahead. So once again, you're on different juries, but you're both coming at some of the same issues. The way businesses are doing business, the packaging is changing, the way the consumers want less packaging or whatever, that's changing. And like with AI, you're both kind of coming at the same problem from different angles. It's remarkable. So, Amy, I realize that you have just started judging. Your jury convened today, just a couple hours ago, and you've just started looking at work. In my jury, one of the first pieces I listened to, I'm on the radio and audio jury, and I fell in love. Like with one of the first 2 or 3 things I listened to, I was like, oh, this is my horse. Have you seen anything like that yet? Is there anything that's jumped out at you?
There's been a lot of pieces. I think a couple that rose to the top. It were interesting approaches. One was for Heineken, and it was Score 00. And the insights that drove a lot of this work, you start to notice that within the B2B category, the insights are mined from different places. So they found, when all the games are happening, it's global, there's times of day when people won't be drinking, like the morning. So how do you get people to the bars? And it's a proposition, it's really targeting the bars to have people to come during this unusual times of day to order that beer. So they celebrated the 00 score and had these promotional things around Heineken, and to get, I think they were giving away free Heinekens or maybe a discount for if the score stayed 0-0. So it's kind of this interesting thing where you can turn something on its head. Or other pieces were using technology. So how do you start to talk about your products and perception of maybe the waste that comes off of like textiles? And, there's another one for solar panels where their perception was solar panels are causing harm to bees, which was not true. So they used solar panels to form these bee pods to show the benefit of it, that it's actually doing better versus harm. So I think a lot of the cases are flipping the perception of what the ingredients might be harmful or that their products might be harmful to the environment. So they're coming at it in ways that is causing the work to be driving solutions where it's not just communicating the benefit, but actually taking what people think might be harmful or not doing well and flipping it on its head to prove that it's not true, to turn it into an actual benefit. So it's like where perception might be negative, they're leveraging that to display positive, which is really fascinating. It's only been a few hours, but there seems to be a little bit of a trend emerging in the space of B2B category. So it's getting exciting. And I can't wait to see where, all the rest of the pieces and what we're going to start to award for silvers and bronzes and golds and even maybe what's the Grand Prix. So it's the beginning of it, but there's definitely some trends that I'm starting to see emerge through the different entries.
Isn't it funny how every year there's always some weird like theme or trend that just through coincidence just happens to emerge. I'm just glad someone is working on the problem of making it acceptable to drink beer that early in the morning. So I'm going to start with you, Prerna, for this question. We're at the London International Awards, obviously the LIAs, you may know them as. So obviously we're a little biased, but do you think awards are useful? And don't worry, your answer will not disqualify you from being on juries in the future. What do you think?
They're the most important things. While we're a long way from making our clients feel that, every piece should be count worthy, on a daily basis, there's a lot of work that we churn out, which nobody would ever sit back and notice, right? Because yes, we do have to cater to businesses. At the same time, when we're working on those brands, there are a couple of pieces that we work on, which are, of course, trying to cater to their problems in the most creative possible ways. While, yes, we do get the results, the client appreciate, and then you've got all the reach and impressions and stuff like that. But then it's very important for creatives to be recognized for that work. One of my ex-bosses once said, two things that any creative requires is appreciation and pizza.
So yes, hear, hear.
So I think while we all, and all of us are in this industry, while we are all working hard to make brands look good, what is making us look good? And that's what awards do. So I think for me, it's very, very important. And I'm sad that it doesn't happen, but I think one day, every week, we should all devote ourselves into creating something exceptionally well for the brands that we're working on. This should be there in the calendar. You'll come out with extremely creative ways of solving business problems. And at the same time, that's what's going to be helpful for your brand, for yourself, for taking your career in different places, right? And at the same time, making yourself feel good. It's a self-motivation also, right? So yes, for me, it's a no-brainer.
I totally agree. Amy, what do you think?
I think that it's unfortunate that there's a trend where people think, awards just for awards' sake. I think it's extremely important, especially to focus on creativity as the LIAs, the LIAs do. If you think about where do people go for inspiration, there's so many sites, the award sites, the winners, the different categories, seeing different categories emerge. So you'll see a new category form and you'll have a few entries and then all of a sudden it'll grow and there'll be one of the largest categories, in a year or two. So I think it's a really great way to inspire, to debate, to understand how other people are solving problems. And of course, as creatives in the industry, it's always nice to be able to celebrate other people's amazing work, your own work, your clients' work, the work you do together. So I think it's an important moment, but I do think that it shouldn't be seen as just awards for awards' sake and something to say, hey, look, I got this trophy. It's news, it's press, it's publications, it highlights everything happening. And if you watch the awards and you start to look at the best cases, which ones are the timeless ones, what's happening that year, where things start to go, it really starts to highlight what everyone is kind of doing in the industry. And so I think it's really important to have awards, especially at this caliber. I think there's shows where they've lost their ways or people are in it for the trophies. The hardest is to be able to really celebrate creativity. And that's why I think that to be here is and to see what everybody enters and to debate the work is, this is the creme de la creme. So you want the best of the best and you want to honor the caliber of amazing work. And it's really important to do that and continue to set the bar really high within the industry that we're in. And creativity can get lost because creativity has to be effective, but sometimes things can be effective without being amazingly creative. And I think to see effectiveness and creativity combined like we are here is super important, and it's not easy. So people should be rewarded and awarded for what their hard work is.
Right on. And I think you hit on something interesting there where you said the work is the creme de la creme, but also the juries are, theoretically the creme de la creme. They're all accomplished industry professionals, successful creative people, but who can be maybe a little jaded or maybe a little burned out or something. And then you come here and you see all this work. Judging here, I always leave excited and re-energized. So I think it's good for the creative leadership as well, that it keeps them all seeing what's new and judging it and kind of learning from it themselves. So I hope that's been your experience as well, because that's my favorite thing about this.
100%. I mean, awards are so inspiring. And not just for yourself, because you're seeing work from all around the world, right? Certain, I would say, topics are very famous in some part of the world, while another part of the world is focusing on something completely different. And you see different perspectives, and that sort of changes the way you think, the way you go back and start thinking of work, because it's always said when you're surrounded with great things, you end up doing great things. So when you're surrounding yourself with good work, and that's what awards do, and that's what Leah's doing right now. I mean, the amount and the level of creativity that we're seeing here is just making us all a lot better.
Well, we're going to end it there. We can't top that. Amy, Prerna, thank you very much for your time with us and your insights. This has been great, and good luck in your juries. I can't wait to see who you give the shiny paperweights to.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Prerna Mehra is the head of design and content director at MullenLowe MENA in Dubai, and Amy Carvahal is the chief creative officer, Code and Theory, New York. They're both judges in the 2023 London International Awards. I'm Christopher Smith, co-founder and CCO at Plot Twist Creativity and one of the hosts of Created for Creatives. The producer is Sarah Knights. The theme music is by Brian Yessian of Yessian Music. The manager is Larissa Levy from the London International Awards. This podcast is an Eardrum production.